Aloha! Lisa here. Let me move this over and hopefully I won't break it like I did last time. Welcome! All right, well, my name is Lisa Oreg and I am the owner of Upside Down Pilates and Nourishment and the creator of the Joint Pain Eliminator program. And this is the program where I help women eliminate joint pain so that they can get back to living an active life that they love, which can be challenging if you have a lot of joint pain, as if you do have joint pain, you know. So today we are talking about Candida and joint pain. So how does heavy metal toxicity cause a Candida overgrowth? That's something we're going to look at. Does Candida overgrowth create joint pain? Does Candida overgrowth create infertility and other vaginal microbiome disruptions? All of these discovery questions are part of phase 1 in the Joint Pain Eliminator program. So if you would like, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell to get notifications when I go live or upload other videos. You can check me out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to stay connected with me outside of the YouTube. All right, let's get into our Candida chit chat. If you have questions, make sure to put them in the chat and I will answer them. And then if you have questions after the live, put them down in the comments and I do try to get in and answer everybody's questions. So here's some questions we're going to look at. What is Candida? What does the gut microbiome have to do with Candida overgrowth? What does the vaginal microbiome have to do with Candida overgrowth? What are the symptoms of Candida overgrowth? And then we're also going to dig into my story with Candida and how my story and what I've done may be impacting you and your life, and you may not even be realizing it. Okay, what is Candida? So, Candida, all right, yeast is a type of fungus, and Candida is the most common type of yeast in the human body. So you'll hear people say yeast and fungus. They're referring to that yeast being, oh, we have a little friend. Are you gonna come up and say hi? Let's see if we can get him to say hi. Say hi. This is my shinobi. Oh, I just made him sneeze. Okay, so it's referring to different species or different classifications. So when they say Candida is a yeast or fungus, yeast is a type of fungus. So Candida is a fungus, and it's also specifically a yeast, which is part of the fungus family. We have hundreds of Candida species that have been identified so far, all right? In a healthy person with a healthy gut flora, these Candida yeast don't produce any symptoms. But in a compromised person, in a compromised gut flora, it becomes almost like a dangerous parasite. And it is a very dangerous thing to be dealing with for sure. Now, you might be thinking, are there any benefits to the Candida? Why on earth would it be there? Why, yes, there are. So what are the benefits of Candida? Well, in balanced amounts, it protects us from mercury and other heavy metals or other toxic metals. So it absorbs and restrains the mercury, and this protects us. All right. For example, what happens is individuals who have amalgam fillings in their teeth, they never really get rid of the Candida overgrowth in the gut because the Candida is there dealing with the onslaught of mercury that's coming out of their mouth into their gut microbiome. Now, as time goes on, we're going to learn many other benefits of Candida and other yeasts and fungus or fungi. I always say it wrong. Please forgive me. But the Candida is a universal decomposer. In fact, when we pass away, it is the Candida that comes in and helps to turn us back into earth. As long as, that's how it's supposed to work. But it does grow in toxic bodies, and the purpose of it works as a cleanup type of fungus to clean up the toxicity. What are the negatives of Candida? Oh, heavens to Betsy's. Well, it is a symptom of a toxic decomposing body. So if you have a Candida overgrowth, your body is toxic and it's starting to decompose. When overgrown, it actually creates a lot of uncomfortable symptoms, such as joint pain. So this is one of the reasons we're talking about it, is because Candida itself creates joint pain. What is a Candida overgrowth? Well, a Candida overgrowth is an imbalance of fungus in the body. All right. We should have some Candida, but in an overgrowth, it takes over and it actually digs roots into our tissues. And this is one of the difficult things in dealing with Candida, is it will dig roots into your gut. It will dig roots all over your different tissues. And so to eliminate it, it can be, or to get it back under control, can be extremely difficult. Locations that Candida will often overgrow and then dig in: the gut, the vagina, the mouth, the scalp, under breasts, in the nail beds, in the armpits, and in your private parts. All right, what causes a Candida overgrowth? So this is where we get into why it gets overgrown, and the diet, lifestyle, and other practices that cause this to be a problem for us. So Candida overgrows in a toxic body. So if you're full of toxins like heavy metals or other toxins, Candida, like I said, is going to be there to help with the cleanup process. And like I said, examples of this are heavy metals in your teeth, heavy metals from injections, heavy metals. We talked about heavy metals last time, so you can go back and read or listen all about the heavy metals and how the heavy metals will get in, and then the Candida will grow and it becomes a big problem. Now, another reason why Candida overgrows is because of low stomach acid. All right. So low stomach acid leads to overgrowth. What happens when we have low stomach acid is, in our stomach, we're supposed to have high stomach acid, and that stomach acid will, what it does is it kills bad bugs, parasites, fungus, and yeasts that aren't supposed to get down into the rest of our intestinal tract. So that's what that stomach acid is there for. And that stomach acid keeps a certain amount of pressure in our stomach. If the stomach acid goes low for a variety of different reasons, there's a little flap that will start to open up, and then the food and the acid that is there will bubble up into our esophagus. And that's what heartburn is. So oftentimes then the doctor will give you PPIs, and what the PPIs do is lower the stomach acid more. So then you don't have the heartburn, but then you're also then compromised because your stomach is not working properly. So that is how Candida can overgrow in the stomach area, because of low stomach acid. And then it gets into the stomach, and then it goes into the small intestines, into the large intestine, and it takes over your gut, simply because you're not killing things off as they come in. Another thing that can cause Candida overgrowth are antibiotics. So antibiotics kill bacteria, but it disrupts the balance within the molds and the fungus and the yeasts that are in our body. And so it leaves room for the yeast to take over due to the imbalance. So they really disrupt our ecosystem. Antifungals, anyone who's taken an antifungal for some sort of infection knows that often it just comes right back. People will take antifungals for Candida overgrowth, and it'll just come right back. It knocks it down, but it doesn't get to the root of it. Excuse me. It doesn't get underneath into the root of it. And then it creates a whole imbalance within the microbiome. Gut microbiome imbalance. So this is a huge one. When we get an imbalanced gut microbiome, it allows the Candida to just kind of take over and dig in. Sugar. Sugar feeds Candida and other yeasts. So eating large amounts of sugar, drinking large amounts of sugar, Processed carbohydrates, anything that turns directly into sugar basically, is going to feed the candida, help it to overgrow. So let's say you have a lot of amalgam fillings, you've got all that mercury dropping down into your gut, and then you eat a high sugar, high processed carbohydrate diet. You're just going to have a lot of candida because it's already there to help with the mercury, and then you're feeding it to make even more of it. Another reason why candida will overgrow is because of high blood sugar. So if your blood sugar is high because your pancreas isn't creating enough insulin for whatever reason, that blood sugar feeds the candida. So having high blood sugar will also feed the candida. And people who are diabetic often have different candida rashes or different rashes that go on. Steroids. Stress, and this is a big one. Stress disrupts everything. It disrupts the microbiome, but it puts you in a situation that the candida will easily overgrow. All right. Estrogen dominance. So things like birth control pills, hormone replacement, estrogen, as it elevates as part of our normal monthly cycle for women that are cycling, these things all can create estrogen dominance, and it feeds the candida. And that's one of the reasons why often we'll have high blood sugar. Okay. What are the symptoms of candida overgrowth? So if you have these symptoms, you probably have candida overgrowth. You can open your mouth and stick your tongue out, and if you have a white coated tongue, that is candida overgrowth. Foggy brain, candida overgrowth. Lack of energy and stamina, lethargy, eczema, asthma, allergies. Those are all yeasts growing and wreaking havoc on your body. All right. Autoimmune disease, pains and aches in muscles, bones, and joints. Candida, my dear friend. Digestive symptoms, things like irritable bowel syndrome and IBD, Crohn's and colitis. All of those things are associated with deep roots of candida inside the gut, either the small intestine with Crohn's or the large intestine with IBD or ulcerative colitis. Restless legs, that's actually the candida. Fertility and vaginal or uterine health issues, things like PCOS and endometriosis are candida overgrowths. Jock itch and male thrush, that's all candida. There's more. Nail fungus, dandruff. Many rashes, not all rashes. Some of them are different reasons, but a lot of rashes are candida rashes. Anxiety and depression, inability to focus. These are all examples of what's called candida syndrome. All right. Now, can we test for it? Well, if you have any of those symptoms, you already kind of know, okay, I've got a candida overgrowth. But yes, you can actually take tests and see if it comes up on the test. So you can take urine tests, like an oat test. There's other tests, and it'll come back with actually candida in the urine or metabolites of the candida in the urine. You can do stool tests. So like the biome effects test, it will test. And if you come back positive in the biome effects with candida, you have candida growing there. Let's see, what else do we have here? Vaginal cultures. So what I'm going to talk about today is the new vaginal health kit that you can get. I'm so excited about it. It does test for candida in the vaginal tract or in your vagina. And then food sensitivities tests also give you a good idea about what's going on with the candida. So you'll come back with candida antibodies, but you'll also come back if you had food sensitivities to things like yeasts or mushrooms. That's a sign that you also have candida growing in your body because you're making antibodies to yeasts and fungus. But you can also test for the candida antibodies in those food sensitivities tests. Now, and the big thing is all you have to do is just look at your tongue, nails, scalp, and skin. If you look at your tongue and it's white, If you have like toenail fungus, if you have dandruff, if you have other skin rashes like eczema or just rashes, you have a Candida overgrowth. It'll show up in those places, but it's going to be deeper in your gut and most likely in your reproductive organs as well. All right, let's review what causes microbiome imbalance. So this, we're talking about the gut and the leaky gut microbiome imbalance, because that is one of the big things that creates the Candida overgrowth. We've gone through this the past 3 times, but I'm going to do it again a little bit more quickly. So what causes microbiome imbalance and leaky gut? Antibiotics, glyphosate, and other herbicides and all sorts of stuff that they're pouring all over your food before you eat it. All right. Food choices. So the bugs grow with the food, just dependent upon what food we choose to eat. Stress, and I've talked about this before. Stress is huge. The funguses, virus, bacteria that wait for you to get stressed. They wait to get the stress hormones. They sense those stress hormones, and then they know you're stressed, and they come in and they start to take over because you're compromised and you can't fight back as well. So keeping your stress down is so important. And again, lack of sleep, lack of exercise and movement, lack of nature, lack of sunshine, heavy metals, and of course our pharmaceuticals. All of those things compromise our gut microbiome. All right, I'm going to check. I've got a couple of questions here. Hello. Oh, look, Shanista's here and Olga's here. Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Let's see. Can Candida be found in blood work? Yes. So you can, when you're doing a food sensitivities test, that's what I was actually referring to. That is a blood test. In general, you can get the antibodies and see if you actually have antibodies to Candida. There are other tests that you can also, blood tests that you can take. I'm sure you can get it through Cyrex. There's many different ones that you can, blood-wise, test and see if you have Candida antibodies in your blood. So absolutely, you can. I personally try to avoid using blood because I don't like to be poked, and I don't like people having to be poked. I'd rather get it from saliva, urine, stool, vaginal fluid, or something like that, and test that way so that we don't have to poke ourselves with blood work. But sometimes it can be very helpful, and that is generally what Western medicine goes by as blood work. I do not use Western medicine though, so I try and avoid it as much as possible. All right. I think that was all of the questions over there. Great questions. If anyone else has questions, please put them in the chat and I will try to answer them as soon as I see them. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story of the Candida overgrowth. What you really want to do is go back and watch the last heavy metals video I did, because that will tell you a little bit more about the whole story. I'm not going to go into that again. But what happened is I was doing a heavy metals detox, and I accidentally mixed up the amount that I was supposed to be taking, and I took too much. And so what happened is this substance that I use for heavy metal detox works extraordinarily well. It's amazing. I mean, it pulls the metals out of everywhere and it takes it directly out of your body. It doesn't deposit it anywhere else. So you have to go very slow, because when you start pulling the metals out of your body, there's another good question. I will answer that question in 1 second. When you pull the metals out of your body, you're totally rewriting your whole body's microbiome. And so you got to do it slowly so that your body can adjust to the situation. So I screwed up. And so the metals came out faster than my body was able to deal with the Candida that was left. And remember that we just talked about Candida is there to help protect us from the metals that are coming out. So it kind of turned into a disaster, to where one of the symptoms of Candida is muscle pain, joint pain, swelling, inflammation, all of that. And basically all that came rushing back to the point that I was waking up in the morning with my hands in contractures. If you get contractures, trigger finger, any sort of thing like that, that's all Candida. It just lives inside our tissues, and then it literally takes our muscles and contracts them, and our ligaments and tendons, and makes them contract to where we don't have control over them, and the yeast has control over them. It's kind of nuts, but that's as it is. So that's what started to happen. And so it's a long story, but I realized what was going on. And so, of course, I stopped doing the heavy metal detox. Unfortunately, it takes about 3 months for the detox stuff to completely get out of the system. So it keeps pulling metals out for about 3 months. So I progressively just got worse because it kept pulling metals out, and I was having a hard time dealing with the Candida. So here I was in this massive Candida overgrowth craziness. Fortunately, it's getting under control, and I'm slowly starting to get better. It is so slow though. And this is why you haven't seen me on doing exercise videos on a beach lately, because I've been basically homebound because of this. But I'll talk about different ways how you can restore balance to the Candida overgrowth. I went through many, many, many things, and it was slowly getting better. But I mean, we're talking like ridiculously slowly better. But now I've started working with something that is actually helping to break it down. It's called Mega Microbalance, and doing all the other things I was doing. But as soon as I added that in, things started to change. So I'll give you my health update. But what my story really shows is how much Candida live off from those heavy metals and other toxins, and what it's there for, and how it's there to help us, and how it is to protect us. And we have to be very careful when we start changing our microbiome, because as you kill off Candida, it will actually release heavy metals or other toxins into your system if it's supposed to be there to help with that. Or if you take the metals out, then you're left with the imbalance of the Candida. And you have to work very slowly and pay attention to what's going on, so that everything leaves very slowly and all the way together, or you're going to have massive what's called die-off or Herxheimer's reaction. And that's really what it is your microbiome gets crazy imbalanced, and you want to slowly change the balance of your entire body's microbiome, not rip things out super fast. So I heard one person say, we're going to blast those parasites. And I said to my client, I don't think you should blast those parasites, because you don't know what's going to be left after you blast those parasites. And my story really, really ridiculously illustrates that. Yes. And the difficulty with the Candida is it digs into your gut, and those roots, it grows roots into your gut, and it actually causes leaky gut just from those roots. So you're never going to get rid of, leaky gut if you've got these roots of Candida digging into your gut lining. You're never going to get rid of the leaky gut if you can't get rid of the Candida, and you're not going to get rid of the Candida if you don't get rid of the heavy metal toxicity, most of the time coming from your mouth, or from injections, or from makeup, or the it's in the air, it's everywhere. So it can be very, very, very challenging to deal with this situation, but it is doable, and I'm doing it, and I will be healthier for it, and you get to come along for the ride. So that is my story of the Candida overgrowth and kind of what's going on right now. I'm going to go over here. How can we rid of the overgrowth without antifungal medications? Good. So we're going to get into that here. Great question. Let's see. So I will get into that in 1 second. Let's see. How does Candida overgrowth correlate to joint pain? Well, the Candida lives in our joints, our muscles, and our tendons. And like I said, sometimes it's actually metabolizing the mercury or other heavy metals that get deposited there. So remember, our body's amazing. And as we have metals or other toxins, it'll actually start depositing it in different parts of our body to keep it away from our vital organs, so we don't die from mercury toxicity. So it will start to go into those different joint areas, and start to eat it up out of there, and then it lives there and causes problems. So that's how it causes joint pain. All right, how do you resolve or balance a candida overgrowth? So this is how can we do it without medications? Well, let me just share with you. I have about 13 different ways we can start dealing with it. One is restore the diversity in your gut flora. So diversity in the gut flora will help tame the candida. Remove toxins that those fungus and fungi are protecting from us. So you've got to get rid of the toxins that are causing the candida to live there. Create balance in the gut microbiome and the vaginal microbiome. So that means creating the diversity, but then you also have to create balance so that you don't have too much of one thing, not enough of the other thing, finding that balance. Increase stomach acid. So this is very important. If you have low stomach acid, you want to increase the stomach acid so that you're not getting candida and other microorganisms going into your intestinal tract you don't want. So things that do this are bentine HCl. It can be in a supplement form. Apple cider vinegar before you eat will do that. I like something called MegaGuard. It has DGL, that's deglycerinized licorice root, artichoke, and ginger in it. That helps to raise stomach acid. Kraut juice and sauerkraut. So taking 4 to 8 ounces of sauerkraut juice a little bit before you eat will help to increase your stomach acid. You can do bitters. There's things called bitters that you can take, and then also other digestive enzymes. So these are all different things that you can take to help increase your stomach acid and digest your food before you eat or during while you're eating. Garlic. So 1 raw clove of garlic per day is a great thing to do. You can mix it in with some, if you're doing soups or stews, you just wait till the soup or stew cools down a little bit, and then you can crush up a raw clove of garlic and put it in there. Or I like to mix mine in with my kefir and use it as like a dip. So it's very delicious that way. Probiotics. Great probiotics for this issue is Megabiotic. Restore Flora has something in it called Saccharomyces boulardii, and that is a yeast that will help to fight the candida. So Saccharomyces boulardii is fantastic for people who have thyroid issues, because that is, if you have thyroid issues, you most likely have heavy metal toxicity and a candida overgrowth. And then the Saccharomyces boulardii really starts to cut down on the candida overgrowth, but you can get a lot of die-off from that. So be very careful if you're going into that. Avoid sugar and processed carbohydrates, because again, those things feed candida. So you want to stop feeding the candida by stopping giving it sugar and processed carbohydrates. Yogurt and kefir are great things, and it needs to be GAPS yogurt and kefir because candida likes lactose. So regular milk sometimes will feed the candida, but if you do a 24-hour fermented yogurt or kefir, that digests the lactose and the casein, so you don't have to worry about lactose and casein causing problems. But kefir is very good because kefir has good yeasts that you can use. And if you have vaginal dysbiosis, I recommend things like kefir tampons or yogurt tampons to help repopulate the vaginal area with good probiotics or good yeasts. Coconut and MCT oil has specific properties that actually will kill its antimicrobial properties, and they'll cut down on yeasts and bad bacteria. What I have been using is a product that has undecylenic acid and B-propolis in it. It's called Mega Microbalance. And what those two things do is they uproot the roots. So I have heard many, many, many wonderful things about that happening with this particular product, and I can attest 100%. I have nothing but really wonderful good things to say about it. It is working. All right, enemas. So coffee enemas are good, but the part of the coffee enema that is really good is the cleansing enema that has salt and sodium bicarbonate in it. it helps to neutralize the acid. And so what happens is Candida will wrap around these worms in our gut, and it creates a biofilm protecting the worms. And the baking soda causes the Candida to break down, and then the worms and the sheets of yeast will come out. Now, it sounds kind of gross, but that's how it works. And I can attest to that's what happens. So it's not just a theory here. So if you do have a lot of Candida, doing the coffee enemas are great, but it's the cleansing enema that has the salt and sodium bicarbonate in it that will actually start to break down in your colon the sheets of Candida that are in there. It'll break it down off from the worms, and then you'll start to see worms coming out and then sheets of yeast coming out. And it's kind of gross, but it's the way it is, kids. All right. So diets that work to do this are GAPS and keto GAPS. So what those two GAPS is gut and psychology / gut and physiology syndrome. And keto, what it does is it cuts out the sugar that feeds the Candida, and it cuts out milk lactose. So when I'm working with someone who has Candida and myself, we'll generally do a keto version of GAPS until things get under control. Stage 2 of GAPS works really well for people who have Candida. And then what happens is you're not able to get past stage 2. But that's because you have so many heavy metals that the Candida just won't let you eat any sugar without having repercussions. Yes, and the reason for GAPS is because we're using 24-hour fermented dairy, and then you can get the benefits of kefir without the lactose from the milk sugar. As well as just keto doesn't have a component to rebuild your gut lining, but GAPS goes through the process to help rebalance your microbiome and rebuild your gut lining. And then a keto diet doesn't go through that process. It's just only eating kind of a high-fat diet, but it doesn't go through the process of healing that a GAPS diet does. Now, the regular old GAPS diet, there is honey in it, there is fruit in it, and things like that. Once you get past a certain level, there's juice in it. And people who have Candida overgrowth just doesn't, they just can't tolerate any sugar. So, yeah. All right. And then the other part of diet that's really helpful is intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is, I like people to do the 18-hour fast. So that's a 6-hour window that you eat. So you could eat at like 12 or 5. I generally eat around 2 or 3 and then around 7 or 8 just because of the way my work life goes. But what it does is it puts our body in a state of something called autophagy. And what that does is it cleans out our cells. So autophagy kind of goes in and it eats up all the bad stuff in our cells, including any Candida that may be growing there. But other pathogenic bacteria, yeast, fungus, virus, etc., anything that's in your cell, autophagy goes in and cleans it out. So that's why intermittent fasting is so good. So a diet for Candida, a great diet is going to be a keto GAPS with intermittent fasting, and then go back and try during that, you're eating that, you're doing all that type of stuff. You're going to try and figure out what's the source. So it might be you got to get all the amalgam fillings out of your mouth, and then you've got to do a heavy metal detox or things like that. All right, let's see. I just saw a question come in. GAPS, do you have a video on that diet? I actually wrote an entire book. I wrote a whole book. My From Sick to Sexy book goes through the GAPS nutritional protocol, as well as Dr. Natasha, who developed the book or the diet for her son who had autism and no longer has autism. You can just look it up on Amazon. Actually, if you go to my Amazon store, if you click in the link of the description, there'll be my Amazon store. So gut and psychology syndrome and gut and physiology syndrome. If you're having joint pain, I recommend the gut and physiology syndrome. And there's a bunch of other GAPS books in there. I have not done a diet video yet. However, I am going to, once I get through the vaginal microbiome and how the vaginal microbiome connects to the gut microbiome, I'm going to start through doing diet, rest, exercise, and all these different things for joint pain. So the first diet one will be on what I think and what has helped me most for the GAPS diet, along with keto GAPS with intermittent fasting. That in a package is perfect for people who have Candida, heavy metals, autoimmunity, anything like that. That's really going to get you going to build yourself back to health. So I haven't done a video specifically on that yet, but that is actually planned coming here soon. But in the meantime, you can go into my Amazon store and grab those books and read it. And I explain the whole thing in my book, From Sick to Sexy, which is available on Amazon. Okay, great questions, great questions. Keep them coming, kids. Now, the next question is, can you eliminate Candida? No, because it is part of our natural microbiome. You just need to get your body back in balance so it's under control. So it's our worldview is that you want to kill all the bugs because there are bugs going out trying to attack us. And that is the biggest bunch of baloney that anyone ever came up with. It's the environment of your body that allows bad bugs to take over. And it's our diet, our lifestyle, our toxic load that creates a toxic body that allows these pathogens to take over. So you have to rebalance. The other thing you have to remember when you're trying to deal with the Candida infection is that as the Candida does die, it is going to release mercury and heavy metals into your system if that's why it's there. And you want to be very cautious of that. And you want your body to be able to get it out of your system. So you got to make sure all your detoxification pathways are open and ready to get it out. Otherwise, it's just going to go store it somewhere else. And the Candida is just going to come right back. Like I said, antifungal drugs. If anyone's tried, they have taken antifungal drugs, and a lot of times, most of the time, the Candida just comes right back just as bad as it was, if not worse, because the imbalance is worse than it was before. So you could try them if you're doing all these other things at the same time and see if it helps. But just know, if it's not been successful for you, it's also not been successful for a lot of people. You have to work on changing the entire environment of your body. You can't just pop a pill and think all your problems are going to go away. That's not how the human body operates. Let's see. So we must deal with our toxins. We've got to deal with our sugar and our alcohol addiction and the Candida. So you got to deal with all those things at the same time. The other thing that you need to remember is that Candida, when you have an overgrowth of it, the Candida likes sugar and it likes alcohol. So it makes you crave sugar and it makes you crave alcohol. So when you have one of these situations, you have to take control over your bugs and tell your bugs they're not having sugar and they are not having alcohol. You have to become the master of your bugs. Otherwise, they're just going to want you to get drunk and pound pizza and eat ice cream and explode with your weight and your joint pain and everything else, because that's what feeds them and makes them happy. So you have to take control. And you also have to be aware that your entire body is a holobiome and there's a microbiome everywhere. You can't just go kill bugs. You have to transform the environment of your body. And the way you transform the environment of your body is transforming your entire lifestyle. Because the lifestyle and the diet that you're doing right now is creating the symptoms and the pain and the weight issues and everything else that you're feeling. So as you slowly start to change the things that you know you already probably need to change, then all of that gets much better as well. But the great news is that you are the one that's in control and you're the one that's making the decision of these choices, or deciding what choices you choose, and you can change them. And then you can change the outlook of your health. You're not, nothing is forever. Everything can change. And we also have to remember that we are opening up Pandora's box. So I have said this before. Health is like peeling an onion layer. When you start to peel an onion, then you go to the next layer, then you go to the next layer, and there are many layers to the onion, and there's more underneath. And so as you start to peel away the layers of your health, you don't know what's going to be underneath. It might be worse, it might be better. And you just have to know that you're opening up Pandora's box, and you don't know what's going to happen next, as my my life has shown us. So in the process of getting better, sometimes it doesn't go in a straight line to better. Sometimes it takes some detours, and you've got a lot of cleanup work to do. I write about this in my book, the image of a dirty casserole dish or a dirty, turkey pan. When you have all that stuff gunked on the bottom that's crusted over, and you start to go and get soap and a scrubber and clean it up, the water gets dirty, and it's actually more dirty than it was before. And you have to wash out the dirty water, and you go scrubbing again, and then it gets dirty again, and you pour the water out and put fresh water in. It's the same thing with our health, all right? As we start to dig up a lot of this gunk and change our microbiome, sometimes some unpleasant things go on, and that's just, you got to go slow and be able to go slow at a pace that you can tolerate it and still live your life if possible. Mr. Shinobi is just all over the place today. He wants to talk to you. Okay, so I think that's all I have for you to share about Candida. I hope you have a better idea that what it is, and then how it kind of takes over our body, and some of the symptoms that it causes when it gets overgrown. I'm going to go in here, and there's a couple more questions here. Let's see. Alrighty, yes, I'm sure I've had overgrowth for a long time. I will check out the books if I can get through the brain fog and concentrate enough to read them. Yes, or just wait till I share with you some more in the videos if videos work better for you. Sugar craving gets bad. Yes. Is sugar in fruit and juices also be bad to take, like sugar from soda or high carbs? Yeah, so yes, this is, if you have severe sugar cravings, this is a really interesting thing for me in my health journey. I used to just crave sugar. I wanted cakes and cookies and candy and all sorts of stuff all the time. And I ate a lot of sugary stuff all the time. And I don't have any sugar cravings anymore. And for some people who have sugar cravings, that's really hard to imagine, but I don't even think about it. It's kind of nuts. So as the Candida breaks down, you don't even think about these addictions. Or alcohol. Like, I would never drink alcohol. I haven't had alcohol since probably 2012 or something like that. Like, thinking about it makes me want to vomit. So when you have these types of cravings or addictions, it's your bugs that want the food. And as the bugs cut down, those cravings and those addictions also go away. So sugar is in fruit. Sugar is in soda. Sugar is in juice. So this is one of the things, like a juice diet. Doing a lot of juicing has a lot of high sugar in it. And it raises your blood sugar. It does all sorts of stuff in a big zap. So fruit juices, no. These things are really horrible for you. Soda, all of that. I mean, you're just drinking. Soda is like basically drinking garbage. I mean, there's no nutritional value. It's in a tin can or plastic. So you're going to be getting the, BPAs and all of that in the plastic or aluminum or whatever else from the tin can. If you're going to do it in at least glass. And God only knows how long it's been sitting in a shelf. So those things are just horrifying. But even people will go and do juice fasts or juicing, and they'll start to overgrow in their Candida. So it can be good to help clean out your liver, but you've got to do it in a wise way. So in the GAPS nutritional protocol, I'm a certified GAPS practitioner. We use something called GAPS shakes, which uses juice, raw eggs, and then kefir or avocado. And what that does is it keeps your blood sugar from spiking up so high. But that only works if your Candida is down to the point where you can tolerate it. So, no, none of that. And then fruit in the beginning gaps, there's no fruit. So we don't start adding fruit in, and only, things that are going to be easily digestible, that don't have a lot of fiber in them, and then are lower in glycemic load. Those things, or you can stew them. So, like if you wanted to stew pears, you would do in the beginning, you could do like a stewed pear with a lot of ghee. Ghee is a good thing to use in place of butter because it won't have the lactose component or casein component to it, but it will still give you the fat, high fry point. You can use it for high heat and things like that. Never heard of kefir before. Let's see. What else do we have going on here? Yes, it is very hard if you have a Candida overgrowth to not eat those treats and eat those things because your bugs want them. So they make you crave them. And then kefir, it's Kefir, I believe. Kefir is, it's kind of like yogurt, but it's made from either a kefir starter or kefir grains. And yogurt has good probiotic bacteria in it, and then kefir has good probiotic bacteria and yeasts in it. So for Candida, having a kefir is going to be more effective in dealing with knocking down some of that Candida overgrowth than a yogurt is going to be. Yogurt will be helpful. And remember, both of these things we want to be fermented for 24 hours, and you need to not buy the garbage in the store. You've got to get organic pasture-raised milk. Raw milk is best, and then you can make it. And in the beginning, you may need to use cream rather than just regular milk because cream has a higher fat content, and that works better with people who are trying to heal their gut microbiome. We're getting off on a tangent now. Great questions, though. Thank you so much. So now I just want to go a little bit into my health update because many of you have been concerned about it. And we're just going on and on today. So thank you if you're still here. I'm doing better. I still can't stand for very long, but I am able to stand longer. I was able to take breaks, and I actually was able to run the vacuum and do a little bit of mopping over this past weekend. And then it must have been Tuesday, I was able to cook 2 dishes. So I was able to cook some turkey chowder, or like a turkey soup. That is a delicious recipe. It's on stage 2 of GAPS, and it's in Dr. Becky's book, which is really just a wonderful GAPS stage by stage. That's in my Amazon store. It's a wonderful way to take you through the GAPS nutritional protocol. That was delicious. And then I also made a kind of a German dish. I call it beef and sauerkraut, but it has onions and fennel and beef and what did I put? Broccoli and then sauerkraut, and you stew it all together for about an hour, and it's delicious. So I made that on Tuesday. So I'm able to do a little bit more. My rash is slowly calming down. The swelling is slowly calming down. And obviously I'm able to talk longer because I'm just talking and talking away. So things are getting better, and hopefully it'll just keep getting better and better and better. So that is my weekly health update. What's next? Next week, we're going to start looking at the vaginal microbiome. I'm so excited about this. So most of you know I've had 2 late-term stillbirths and 8 miscarriages. So I've delivered 2 dead babies, baby Max and baby Noah. And when you have this type of thing, the doctors just say, oh, these things just happen. We don't know why. Try again. And it's really horrible. And that, I write all about this in my book, but that answer was not good enough for me. And I have been on a rampage since the death of my first son to figure out what's going on, because there is an answer to this. And what's so beautiful is we now have a new vaginal microbiome kit that you can swab the fluids of your vagina and find out what is in your vaginal microbiome. And what's so great is they've been able to identify what is in a healthy vaginal microbiome, what's in a dysfunctional vaginal microbiome. And when you know that, then you can start to make changes and take steps towards making the vaginal microbiome more healthy. This is brand new, hot off the press. I am so excited about it, and I am so excited to be able to share it with you. So what we're going to do is next week, I'm going to start sharing with you what a healthy vaginal microbiome is. And for until May 30th, I'm actually going to do a standalone test where if you want to get this new test that is available, you can. And you can actually purchase it through me, and I will send you the results, and I will send you diet and lifestyle and other modifications, supplements that you can take to help start rebuilding so that you have a healthy vaginal microbiome that will help you get rid of any sort of vaginal issues that you have going on. But we're going to talk more about that next week. But if this interests you, I've already got it all set up. You can go into the description, and in the link, it'll say vaginal microbiome information. Click on that link, and it'll take you right to where you can actually purchase the package from me, and then you can go see what's inside of your microbiome if you're wondering what's going on. And yeah, it makes me so happy to know that people are working on this, and they're doing things to help people like me and you that have lost babies, that can't get pregnant, that have recurrent yeast infections, that have all these different things going on that nobody seems to be able to help us with. And the more treatments we get, the worse things get. I'm seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, my friends. So that's what we're going to do next week. So you can go into the description and check that out if you would like. Otherwise, meet me next week, and I'm going to start sharing with you what's inside of what bacteria, fungus, and yeast are inside of a healthy vaginal microbiome, what's in an unhealthy vaginal microbiome. I'm going to do it in 2 parts because it's going to be longer, and I don't want them to be an hour, and we've been over an hour at this point. So join me next week to learn more about that. All right. And go back to the previous week if you realize you have Candida infection because you might have heavy metal toxicity. Not everybody, but a lot of people do have heavy metal toxicity, and they just have no idea that that's what's going on. And you got to deal with the heavy metals and other toxins as well as the Candida at the same time, or else nothing changes, my dear friends. Nothing changes. Okay, so I also have the Joint Pain Eliminator Starter Kit. You can download that. That's in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share this. If you know someone who's been having issues like I've been having, share it. They might want to know more. Comment below. Is there anything in here that was mind-blowing to you? And do you have questions? Make sure to put them in the comments, and I'll try and adjust and answer those either in the comments or next week on next week's live. Yay! All right. Woo! We made it, kids. Oh, hello. Oh, Claude Views. And am I saying this right? Shastina. I think that's what I am. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. If anyone else has any comments, I'm going to end the live now. You just put them in the comments below, or any questions. Otherwise, Shastina, thank you. All right, see, I'll get it. I'll get it eventually. Shastina, I love it. Almost like, yeah, I love it. That's great. All right, Shastina, thank you for all your wonderful questions. They were great. And if anyone else has questions, put them in the comments, and I will see you all next week. All righty. Aloha, everyone.